everybody, this is PJ Riley with Lancaster Archery. Wait, that's not right. Hey everybody, this is Mackenzie Brown here with Lancaster Archery, and I wanted to kind of go over with you guys how to line up a recurve bow. Guys, we're gonna look at setting up a Olympic recurve bow today. So we're gonna look at the alignment of our limbs and the rest of the riser. So what we're gonna be using today are biter limb alignment gauges and a couple of sets of Easton Allen keys. So the whole reason why we set up and use the limb alignment gauges is to make sure that the limbs are in line with themselves, as well as the riser and as well as the stabilizer. And this does a couple of things. So for tuning, if everything is in alignment with itself, you're using a way more efficient bow. Everything's putting energy into the arrow instead of fighting itself. So if everything's lined up, all of your energy is going into that arrow and making it sure that it's most likely going to be a 10. So in this level of setting up the bow, what we've already done is we've made sure to adjust the tiller alignment. So you're going to make sure that your tillers are the distance that you'd like. I personally like my tiller on the top to be right at 1/8 of an inch higher, more distance than my bottom one. And then we're also going to make sure that our stabilizers are on and our sight is on. And so at that point, this is when you're ready to actually throw the limb alignment gauges on and make sure that your riser is lined up and ready to shoot. So first we're going to take the gauges, and I personally like to put them on the outside of my limb savers. If you don't use limb savers or you're not putting them on your bow just yet, a good gauge to put them on is I put my hand widthwise like this, and then you want to put your gauges on the limb just like that. You want to make sure that they're clicked in and pressed all the way onto the limb, because if they're not, then they can slide, they can move, and you want to really get an accurate read for where your limb is lined up with. Again, on the bottom, same thing, just on the outside of the limb saver, make sure it clicks and is all set up. So when you first look at your setup with the limb alignment gauges on and you're looking at your string down the center of the stabilizer, you want to look at both of the limbs and see which one is worse. So if you have one that has the string perfectly in line, but the other one is just slightly off, that's the one that you're going to choose to adjust first and see if that throws off the one that's already set. So you want to do the one that has the biggest gap between the string and the center of the gauges, and then move on to the second one. For someone who may be a little bit shorter than I am, it might be a little bit difficult to look at the limb alignment gauges together and be over your bow in a chair like this. So I've brought some of these catalogs to just put underneath the stabilizer like this. And that just gives you enough of an angle change so that you can step back and see the stabilizer, see the limb alignment gauges, and make sure that everything's in line and not have to be standing on your tippy toes and move one way or the other to be able to get your limb alignment. Okay, so first we're gonna start with lining our stabilizer up with the rest of the bow. The reason why this is important is because you wanna make sure that the stabilizer reaction happens in harmony with the bow reaction. So when your stabilizer is in line with the rest of your bow, everything's working in perfect harmony to get your arrow to the target. So you wanna make sure to line it up with the stabilizer first instead of the limbs, because the limbs can be a little trickier and you're trying to adjust a little bit more. So when you work with just the limbs, the stabilizer is almost always going to be out of line. So I like to start with the stabilizer first and then move the limbs with accordance to that. So you're just moving small amounts on the limbs instead of chasing yourself with trying to get the stabilizer in line after you've done all the limb work. Now for me, it's most comfortable to close or cover my non-dominant eye, just because it's easier to see one string, to see one limb alignment gauge, and make sure everything's lined up just right, instead of having both eyes open and then not being able to see, or squinting. It's a little bit harder, so I usually just cover one eye with my other hand. So I'm right eye dominant. I'm going to close my left eye and see where we're lining up. So right now you're gonna adjust a little bit left and right. You wanna make sure that you're lining up and having that string down the center of the stabilizer. So for me, I have a little bit of a gap on the left side of the gauge. So what I'm doing is on this gauge, you've got the two parallel lines, and you wanna put the string dead center down that line. Now you're gonna have to do that with the Allen keys, but predominantly you're going to see which side of your string has a gap between the two lines. So for me, I have a little sliver of yellow right here on this side of my limb alignment gauge. So what that means is I'm going to be pushing the right side of the alignment system over to the left side from my vantage point. So I'm gonna be tightening this side to push that limb over, and then to seat it in, tighten that left side. Now it's that way on both my top and bottom limb, so we can go ahead and do a little bit of an adjustment. So I'm gonna take my Easton Allen keys here, and it is the 3/16 Allen key. So like I said before, make sure you loosen the side that you're not pushing. So that would be this left side. So we'll loosen that just a little bit. You just need about a turn. You don't need to go crazy on loosening it. And then I'm just going to bump about 1/4 of a turn on this right side and then see where it is. I don't want to tighten anything down just yet. I want to see where it is in accordance to our stabilizer. So again, I'm looking at that stabilizer on the bottom, and we are lined up perfect now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this side that we didn't push the limb with, and hold this right side steady and tighten that left side. So the reason it's important to use 2 Allen keys instead of just one set is because you're tightening 2 bolts together to hold one piece in place. Instead of just tightening the one side, that right side can still be loose, and you want to make sure that everything is tight and in place. If you're going to all of the trouble of lining up your bow, you want to make sure it's tight and going to stay in place so you can shoot 10s. Thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you learned about lining up your bow and getting it ready to tune. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, and also subscribe to the Lancaster Archery YouTube page, and also hit that notification bell so you know when we come out with more videos.